In a previous video, we loaded a virtualization software called VirtualBox. Let's click on Start, All Programs, and scroll down till we see the software and go ahead and start it up. Inside of VirtualBox, we created a new virtual machine by clicking the New button. Let's go ahead and hit Cancel and look at the three virtual machines created: CentOS Linux, OpenSolaris, and OpenSUSE Linux. As I click on each of these virtual machines, I will see hard disks, CD-ROMs, and so on. If you did not see the virtualization video and would like to see it, please go back and look at that video. If you're installing or learning Linux on its own computer system, you could ignore this entire section. Let's go ahead and click on CentOS and click Start. And over here we have the virtual computer booting up into the CentOS Linux operating system. Just a brief recap. This program, Sun VM XVM VirtualBox, pretends that it's a computer, separate from our computer. And it allows you to install a different operating system, such as Linux or Unix, on top of it inside of your home PC. This way you could learn and actually do real work in a Unix environment without needing to go out and buy a new computer. And here we have the operating system booting up and starting. Now we see it has a nice graphical environment and it's telling us what it's doing. If I click on Show Details, it switches from this nice graphical interface to a more typical Unix startup sequence, where it shows every item that is being started. Once it is started, we could go ahead and log in by entering our username and then our password. Remember, passwords are case sensitive. And that's it for booting up and logging in to the Linux environment. Here we have application menus, system menus, a few icons, a computer icon. If we double click it, we see various files and folders on the system, very similar to Windows. We see a notifier telling us updates are available. We could go ahead and click the X on that. Let's close these windows. And a trash can where we could drag things into the trash can. Now this windowing environment, although very similar to Windows, is not really why most people install Unix. Usually you would install to get the power of the command line, that is the ability to issue commands. So let's go ahead and hunt down a program that would allow us to do that. If we go to Application, System Tools, we see again various utilities and programs. Here's an Office program with a spreadsheet, word processor. Let's go into Accessories and we find the terminal. Before we launch the terminal, let's right click and say Add to Launcher Panel, and we see it was placed here. Let's right click on it again and say Add to Desktop, and we see it was placed here. Let's go ahead and click it, and it brings up a terminal window. Let's make this writing a little smaller. And now we can issue Unix commands like hostname. We see it tells us the name of this Linux computer is localhost. Let's clear the screen with the clear command. Let's type the date command, and we see it's Sunday, September 21st, Eastern Time. This time is incorrect. We'll show you how to change that later. Let's type cal for calendar, and it shows us a nice calendar, September 2008. What if we wanted to check the calendar for 2007? There we go. Let's clear the screen. Print working directory. We saw these commands before in the introduction to Unix or Unix 101 using Cygwin. We'll look at these commands in more details later. Right now, just know that this is the true power of Unix, the command line, where you could issue commands like ls to list the contents, and so on. And that's it for this introduction to Unix using Linux within a virtual machine or on a separate piece of hardware. In our case, we're running Linux, which is a form of Unix, on top of Windows Vista in the Sun VirtualBox VM. And just for some of you using the VirtualBox, if you wanted to escape from the virtualization environment, you would click the right control button. You could click on Machine and go to full screen mode, where you see we're now mostly within the Unix environment, where we can launch multiple terminals and so on. So let's get out of full screen mode by Control F, and then again by another control, right control. And now we can move things around. Let's go ahead and close this virtual environment. One very important thing before we go, when you're shutting down a Unix machine, it's very important not to just click to power down the machine by pressing the power button, or in this case, since it's a virtual Unix machine, by pressing this X. We should go in here and click on Applications, one of these menu items, and click on Log Off or Shut Down, or alternatively, the Unix way, we could use the shutdown command, or in this case, I would say Power Off. And we see the virtual machine powering off. If you notice, it's stopping all these different services. It's shutting down nicely, saving any unused, unsaved data. And this OK panel tells us that each process is shut down nicely. Occasionally, when there's problems, you might see something get stuck here. It's unmounting, disconnecting itself from the files on the hard drive. And that's it. The virtual machine has completely shut down.